Hello and welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to talk about spiritual knowledge and why spiritual knowledge is of the highest kind and why everybody should seek spiritual knowledge. Now, first, let me differentiate between spiritual knowledge and knowledge of different branches. Now, when we listen to this word called knowledge, we generally associate it with some kind of philosophy or some kind of factual knowledge or some kind of a scientific knowledge or something that we can learn about in the books or through research or through experimentation or through scholarly endeavor. Spiritual knowledge is not really of that kind. Spiritual knowledge is the knowledge of the soul. And in my endeavor of seeking knowledge, of trying to understand the world and trying to gain as much knowledge and wisdom scholarly approach, from a scholarly approach, I have found that whenever you are seeking knowledge, for example, if you are reading a book, or if you are interested in a certain topic, and if you are researching about this certain topic, then you find that whichever book that you are reading, find that you kind of embody the person's thought. Now, the writer or the person who has made this knowledge available mostly in the form of certain kind of writings or certain kind of a documentary or information. When you read them or when you study about them, you kind of embody the thoughts of the person who is working on this type of knowledge. And the more you embody, the more you read about them, the more you research about them, you start thinking like the person who is presenting you with this knowledge. This knowledge can be of any kind, of psychological nature, of a philosophical inquiry, of a scientific inquiry, but whatever it is, whatever form it is, you kind of start thinking like the writer, start thinking like the scientist or the researcher. You start to make interconnections between the different topics that the researcher is exploring. Now, when you start to do this, and when you start to think like the researcher, you embody the researcher. You become the researcher even for a while. For the whole time that you are reading a person's book or a writer's book, no matter how much scholarly and scientifically proven it may be, you are kind of embodying the person. You are thinking, in fact, you are thinking the same thoughts that the writer or the scientist has written in his books. And when you embody knowledge, you also adopt something of the personality of the writer. You start to behave like the writer. You start to look at the world through the writer's perspective. Now, in my endeavor for this search to acquire knowledge and to acquire the truth, to understand this universe, I have delved in many forms of knowledge, whether it be knowledge of chemistry, whether it be knowledge of number theory, whether it be knowledge of algorithms, or even knowledge of modern physics. I have delved into all of these, and whenever I was researching about a certain topic, I found that I was looking through their eyes. I was looking through the physicist's eyes. When I entered a room, I looked at the energy that is being powered in that room, the energy that the room is taking up. I was looking at the mechanical nature of the cupboards. I was looking at the shelves. I was looking at the fan and looking at the AC circuits that are powering that fan or the air conditioner. I was also trying to look at the energy that is in the room. And when I was researching about mathematics, I started looking at the world through numbers. I started seeing numbers everywhere. I started seeing the number plates of the different cars that I was seeing on a day-to-day basis. I was calculating. I was doing small additions and subtractions of those numbers and trying to get to a golden number. Or trying to see where the number plates can be reduced to an irrational complex number. I was trying to see and connect different stars together. Look at the angles that they are making with each other. And so on and so forth. This thing goes on and on. So when I embodied these philosophers, these scientific researchers, I found that my life was beginning to look like them. When I was reading Einstein, for example, I was looking at through his perspective. I was looking at the world. I was going on walks every evening. I was doing small calculations. If I had continued on that journey, I would have probably come to the same conclusions that Einstein himself had come up with without the need of actually studying him. Because once you embody a personality, the personality itself grows. It grows, and over time, it eventually becomes the scientist, the philosopher. And of course, there's a huge isolation factor here, and in embodying a scientist, it requires isolating yourself from enormous society. It requires you to be silent and not really let the energy dissipate or gain influences from different people. And you yourself can try this. The remarkable thing about the brain and about your mind is a single idea. You've given enough energy, you've given enough thought, enough time and patience, you'll grow into the mainstream idea. If you embody Einstein's perspective, if you embody Einstein's thoughts, then you will come to the same conclusions that he has shown through his research. Now, I wanted to come back to this. I wanted to come back to spiritual knowledge. Spiritual knowledge is of another kind. When you embody a spiritual person, the personality becomes very, very peaceful. In fact, you don't really even need to do the meditation practices. Simply embodying them is enough. Simply researching about the spiritual people who have lived in this world is enough. Simply starting to think like them is enough to bring you and your consciousness into a state of a higher wisdom, of a knowledge that is of really remarkably different kind. When you embody a spiritual person like, for example, Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, then you start to see the world through his view. When you start to see the world through indifference, when you start to see and look into your true nature, and try to embody his thoughts, to embody his personality, even for a moment, is enough to take you and transcend you out. It gives you immense bliss, even for a moment, just to embody a spiritually evolved person, to read his thoughts. This knowledge, this spiritual knowledge that the ancients have passed on to us, obviously a lot has been lost, but certainly there are a lot of books and a lot of knowledge that still is kind of hidden in each and every tradition of the world. And there is something about reading these texts like the Ashtavakra Gita, or these texts like the poems of Rumi, these texts like the Vijnana Bhairava. Just reading them for a few minutes can raise your consciousness to a level, to a higher level, to a level of complete peace, even for a moment. When you read the books of the spiritually evolved people, when you embody them for a few minutes, you will understand what I mean here. Why I say that spiritual knowledge is of another kind. And when you keep reading them, you realize that they are true. I have found that the more I delve into modern physics, it seems as if we create questions. When I embodied a physicist, when I embodied a mathematician, my way of life was obviously highly intelligent from other people's view. I would be probably considered intelligent if I had continued to be a physicist or a computer scientist. But that embodiment of a physicist will lead you to only questions and conflicts. Because the direction that we are looking is the wrong direction. It is the direction of the wrong kind. The questions that we are posing in physics, in most of the research in physics, can of course lead us to tremendous technological advances, but it can also lead us to tremendous disasters. Because the more you acquire power, especially if it is in the wrong hands, can become disastrous, not only for themselves, but for the world itself. But spiritual knowledge is wisdom that can only spread peace. And a person who is seeking spiritual knowledge understands this. He understands the joy of reading a spiritual text, of embodying those people, of embodying the levels of the universe, of embodying a poet and looking through an artistic lens. Because religion and spirituality is art of the highest form. When you extend your art, when you keep doing your art to its ultimate conclusion, you will reach the source. You will reach the creator. Because that is what we are all doing through our artistic pursuits. We are all creating, but we are blind to the creator that is creating inside all of us. The artist is in tune with this creator, and until and unless he is completely in tune with this creator, he unfortunately will not be able to create an art that will impact, that will leave a mark on his world, that will make people resonate, that will invoke emotions that are of the higher kind. So spiritual knowledge, no matter which branch of spirituality it is from, will immediately resonate with your soul. It may not resonate with your intellect, or with your heart, or even with your emotions, but it will resonate with your soul. It will resonate with the substratum of the universe. That is your soul. That is your consciousness. So thank you for watching this video, and good luck in pursuing spiritual knowledge.